Okay, YouTubers, space detectives, space geeks and pareidolia police. Today we are going to be looking at some more images of Gale Crater taken by the Curiosity Rover, and mainly we're going to be looking at this GIGAPAN. Now this is an awesome GIGAPAN. This really is quite awesome. I did a GIGAPAN of this the other day, but mine's only in black and white. This one's in colour and looks great. And there's some really good detail here. And not only can you see the lake bed, the dried out lake bed at the bottom of Mount Sharp. Here's the mountain here. It doesn't look very big, but it is. This is only the sort of lower slopes of one side of it, really. You've got the bottom of the lake bed here. You've got these crazy burial mound type structures over here, which I've shown many times before in the past. There will be links at the end of this video to anything relevant that I mention in the way of previous videos as well, so you can check those out at the end of the video. There'll be card links at the end. You can just click on those. Now, I'm just going to show you what I found, and then we'll backtrack a bit, and I'll show you where to get the individual images and that kind of thing, and I'll show you some close-up detail. Now, the part of the image we're looking at today is very close to that gun thing I found. Now, the gun that I published in my previous video, or the gun-shaped object, I should say, it doesn't mean it's actually a gun. It's something manufactured looking that's shaped a bit like a gun with a barrel and all that kind of thing and a handle. Check that out. Go back to my previous video and watch that, because this is the same area, but unfortunately that part of the image is missing from this one, so I can't show you that again in here because it's not here. I don't know why that is. Perhaps that image was missed out, or perhaps he did it before that image was uploaded. Perhaps this was done before the whole set was uploaded. I don't know. Never mind. Today we are looking down here in the bottom right corner, and there's what just looks like a bunch of rocks here, and then there's this thing just here. Now, I first looked at it, I thought, what could that be? It wouldn't be a petrified animal, would it, by any chance? And then I looked at it a bit closer, and I thought, yeah, that's a petrified animal. In fact, it looks like some kind of bear type creature. And when you get in real close, now I haven't done anything to this. This is as the image is. I haven't touched it in any way. This is the GIGAPAN. I didn't compile this image, but I can confirm it's there because I've done my own GIGAPAN of the area, and it's in there as well. So, but this is better than my GIGAPAN. It's a lot more detail, and it's in colour. And let's get in close. Right, there we are. Now, let your eyes adjust a bit. Now look at this eye. There's an eye here. This is the head. We have an arm. We have a body coming round, and we have what's a part of upper part of the leg here. And if you go in really close, I'll zoom right in as far as it will go, and look around the snout area here. We got remains of an eye here, a kind of eye socket, a kind of brokenish eye socket there, and the snout here with nostrils, and there are teeth here. Now you can't see them very well. I can't zoom in much further. Oh, I can actually. Now look really carefully. This is a bit dark and it's a bit dull, but when you brighten this up, all we've got to do is take a screenshot of this, right, and then brighten it up, and you'll see that there's teeth in here, and the jaw coming down, lower jaw part here, and the upper maxilla and nose area. Okay, now it's not that clear, but also check out this thing behind. There seems to be some kind of statue of a head here or something, and you can even see two eyes. See those two eyes there, and a mouth and a nose, and there's this kind of strange block that is kind of carved into or something. Now that's probably a carving. Could be, might not be. As I've said before, this was a lake bed, and that has been confirmed. I've obviously worked out that this was a lake pretty quickly. In fact, I think they said it was a lake bed when they first landed there, but I worked out very early on that there must have been animals coming to this lake to drink the remaining water that was left in the area. And it would have been probably one of the last places on Mars that had liquid water. Now the problem is, when you have liquid water evaporating rapidly and diminishing rapidly, what you have is a fight for survival And basically, as the oasis that it would have been shrunk, it would have became very, very salty. And we know from samples taken of the ground and soil that it's very, very salty and has a very high level of sulfur. Now, what does sulfur and salt do when you mix it together? It makes a very, very good preservative. Now, I'm going to show you, before we go any further, that those two things. There's also some crazy stuff all over here. There's this thing over here, which I thought was interesting. This may be part of an animal as well. We have what looks like a head here and a neck. Now, what the rest of it is, I'm really not sure, but this looks like it may be a dead creature that's petrified also and mineralized, with a skull there and you can see kind of vertebrae here going around like a neck. But that might not. It may not be. That may just be an eroded rock that looks that way. But there are lots of weird things here, and I've found hundreds of what look like petrified creatures in this area. Lots of skulls, lots of kind of animals and weird creatures that look like they've been preserved in salt and minerals like sulfur, and then literally turned to stone. Okay, now I'm going to show you up close, then I'm going to explain how I think this process is working. Now, I did come to the conclusion early on in my channel, about 7 years ago now, back in 2013, that the area was a lake bed and that there are lots and lots of different fossils in the area, fossilized creatures and preserved creatures. This is another example of it. I'll show you the detail, then I'll show you some articles that back up my theory on this. I'm not just making this stuff up. I've been researching Mars for many, many years, since the 1970s in fact, and I've always been fascinated by it. So I'll go into more about that in a minute. Let me show you the detail here. We have an arm. Okay, there's an arm. There's no pull on the end. A leg coming down here, like this. There's something here, like almost like it's holding something. The other arm comes down here, like that. Then we have the head that comes around like this. So it's a bit hard to tell with some of this stuff because you've got similar coloured stuff behind it. So you've got to kind of work out what's in front and what's behind. This blue material is behind it, I think. And the head comes round. Okay, so that's the general shape. Okay, fairly simple, right? You've even got, when you go in close, now I've sharpened this. I haven't done a lot of enhancement to this. You can see the roll clip here on the left. It's pretty good as it is. Very, very good indeed. So credit to Neville Thompson. How we get so much detail out of these is quite incredible. Brilliant stuff. And let's go in real close and have a look at the facial details. We've got an eye here. Okay, just there. We've got another one here, but that's damaged. It's kind of cracked. We've got a nice socket there. And what amazed me was the snout detail. We have a nose here, like a snout, almost like a dog snout there. But dogs and bears are kind of related. They're in a similar sort of family, I think, of mammals. I can't remember what it's called now. And we got the snout coming down here and the chin here. Okay, so there's the snout, and you can even see in here teeth, upper and lower teeth. Right there, you've got a whole bunch of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and there's a bunch of them down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can't see them that well, but they're there. Okay, what you got to do is brighten the image up. Really don't have to do a lot. Oh, you can see where I've sharpened it a bit here as well. You can actually see where there was fur on this thing, the actual hair. See, look. If you look at this arm, look at these textures in there. Amazing. The amount of detail here is quite astonishing. Absolutely astonishing. And that thing behind, you can see it in the raw image there. this thing. Right? Look at it here. When I brighten it up, you can really see it. This thing here. You've got two eyes with iris detail like that. Got eyebrows above, which are highlighted, which is anatomically correct. You have a nose. You have a slightly downturned mouth. Side of the face there, chin coming down here. It's a bit vague, a lot of it, and it sort of comes right up to here, but it kind of seems like it's all joined up. But there's a whole jumble of rocks and weird things down here, some of which may be carved, some of which may be just debris scattered around, and it's all kind of piled up and it's obviously heavily damaged, but that looks like some kind of statue or something. And I found lots of those as well. So this is a good one because we have what looks like an old part of a statue or burial figurine or something. It's not very big. I would say that this bear thing, this looks big because we've zoomed in, but it's not very big. Let's go back to the GIGAPAN and see if we can work out how big it is. Now, the problem is we don't know how far away the rover was when it took this, but it seems to me as if the rover was up here somewhere, lower down, but looking from the ridge down into the lower part of the Gale Basin area, which is basically where the lake is, or was. And it's all kind of dried out, okay? We've got the buttes over there, we've got the base of Mount Sharp here. Now the waterline, I would imagine, would have changed drastically over many years. Over millions of years it would have gone up. At one point it may have been very, very full up. The whole crater would have been full of water, and I think gradually it would have gone down and down and down and down until it eventually dried up. But the last stages of the dying of the lake in Gale Crater may have been very quick indeed, and it may have become, I suspect, very, very salty and dense in minerals. And as the animals came here to drink, they would have probably been poisoned and suffered liver failure or something similar, and then become mineralized in the sedimentary layers at the edge of the lake, which would have been very high in salt and sulfur and other very good preservatives, okay? I mean, we use these things to preserve food, and there it is. So how big is it? I'd say it was probably less than a foot. It could be 2 feet, but judging by the way the rover takes images normally, this could be zoomed in quite a long way. So our effective distance may only be about 20 feet or 30 feet away from this, okay? So it's very hard to say exactly how big it is, but it's not very big, it's not huge, but it's not tiny either. I would say this is about a foot. It may be a foot and a half in size, I don't know exactly. I will chat to Neville T about this actually, because I think this is a very important find. This one is one of the best examples of any petrified creature on Mars so far. There are hundreds on my channel of similar things, not only statues and skulls and petrified animals, but other things like buildings and stuff. So I'm not going to go into all of that today, but I will chat to Neville T about this and see if we can work out a size for this. I estimate it to be about something between 12 to 18 inches. That's all I can say for now, okay? So, but I do recommend you look at this. There will be links to these images and stuff and articles I'm going to show you below in the description. So click on those and have a look yourself, zoom in, take your own clip, brighten it up, add a bit of contrast, sharpen it a bit. That's what we got to do. The detail is already there. This is fairly close up, within good visual range, much better than many of the things we've seen so far, okay? And you can even see, let's go back to that a minute, you can see the teeth. You can see the nose, you've got an eye, you've got a clear head. Now whether this part here is an ear, we got this thing sticking up here, it kind of looks like it's joined, and I think there's another one here, but it's kind of broken or folded down like that. So we've got ears, we've got a head, we've got eyes, we've got a snout, we've got some quite good teeth there, a good set of teeth. We have quite a clear nose there, okay? It's not a huge nose, but it's a nose. We've got hair detail. Now, if this thing was preserved very quickly, like it may have been frozen, as well as mineralized in the salt and sulfurous material on the ground, in the sedimentary layers here, So this may have been preserved extremely quickly and freeze-dried almost in a matter of hours or a couple of days. That the atmosphere on Mars may have been destroyed very, very rapidly. There is an atmosphere there, but it may have, and it may well be recovering from the cataclysm that happened on Mars probably millions of years ago. But it may have been a lot more recent than that. This may not be an actual fossil as such. The mineralization process takes thousands and thousands or even millions of years to make a fossil. I actually think that these are not fossils in that sense. I think these are salt mummies, okay? These are preserved, petrified animals, frozen, and then salt and sulfur preserved. And the conditions are so dry, and there's such little oxygen on Mars, that basically they could last for many, many thousands of years, 100,000 years, 50,000 years, who knows? This may only be 10,000 years old. It could be 100 years old. It really depends on when this thing was frozen, and it could have just dried out and desiccated there. I would imagine it's somewhere around 10,000 years old, but who's to say? Who's actually to say? Because these processes can happen very, very quickly indeed. And I'm going to show you something there to prove this. We have this place here. The lake, this lake turns animals to calcified statues. Now this is an article on this site called Roaring Earth here. This is fascinating, by the way. And I'm not going to read you all of it. But there's a lake in Africa called Lake Natron, okay? And this photographer went there and he found loads of petrified, preserved birds and animals and stuff by the side of this lake. And he's taken these photographs of these animals and he's sort of placed them on rocks and branches and stuff to make them look like they're still alive. Now, what this lake is a very, very alkaline lake. It's got very, very high salt and mineral content. And what happens is animals either go to drink from it or fall in it and are literally completely covered in salt and minerals, and they go rock hard and turn into salt mummies. Now, a similar process is used for mummification of people in places like Egypt. They use salt and other minerals to make mummies, right? What it does, it desiccates the animal or person, sucks the moisture out, and then it kind of dries hard, okay? And is preserved. Well, of course, this is a natural process. Now, there's an animation of the lake here. Now, there are animals that live on the lake and in it, but there's only like one species of fish, small fish, that live there in this very, very caustic or alkaline, I should say, water. It's called the Red Lake, Lake Natron. And pink flamingos live there. And there's a type of algae that grows in this lake, and the flamingos eat it, and they go red or pink, right? Here's an animation of Lake Natron here. Now, Gale Crater may have been very much like this in its latter stages, and may have become very, very alkaline indeed. And the mineral content of the water would make it very difficult to survive if you fell in it, right? It's also very, very hot as well. Now, Gale Crater, I do think, is much warmer than other parts of Mars, mainly because of it's so low down. It's 4.5 kilometers below the surface of Mars. It's right down, okay? So there would be thermal heat coming up from the ground, and there may be thermal vents and water coming up from below the surface of Mars, some of which may be very, very rich in these minerals of sulfur and salts and other minerals. And if you fell into it, you would end up petrified and preserved in salt, like this. Basically, you need to read this article. It's really quite fascinating. There have been examples of planes crashing, or I think a helicopter crashed into this lake at one point, and it was all perfectly preserved. And the guy turned into a mummy. The pilot turned into a mummy. There's no picture of it, unfortunately. But basically, what this guy does, he collects the dead birds and animals from around the lake, Here's this, animals turned to stone. So if you just do a Google search, animals turned to stone, and press images, you'll get all these pictures come up. Okay, there's a bat. This is incredible. The detail is amazing. These are basically salt mummies that have been petrified in minerals. They've fallen in, they got covered in minerals, and then basically the minerals have sucked the moisture out of them, preserving their remains, okay? Much like you would get at Pompeii. Now, Pompeii is a different kettle of fish, okay? These are casts. Now, at Pompeii, there was a volcanic eruption, obviously, which killed thousands of people and animals, and they were covered in ash and volcanic ash and stuff, and kind of cooked, and then they've gradually rotted away, leaving a gap where they were in the very fine volcanic ash. And what these scientists did is they came along and they poured plaster into the area where the body was, and then filled it up with plaster, creating a cast. Okay, so it's not quite the same process, but they do look very similar. It's a similar process to look at. If you look at a petrified animal, they look similar to these casts. Okay, at Pompeii, and there's like animals as well at Pompeii, not just people. So, in fact, let's look them up now. Yeah, the casts of Pompeii. They're like petrified pigs and horses and all sorts, or preserved pigs and horses, I should say. And a lot of them still got bones and stuff in them. So basically the bodies were preserved in the ash, and what they did is they poured the plaster in, and then pulled them out when it dried up and set, and then chiseled away the excess material to get these casts. Anyway, I digress. You can look up that. So I'm sure a lot of you have learned about Pompeii at school and college and stuff like that. So you can look that up. Here we are. Here's the petrified animals. There's a dog and a pig. They're not petrified. These are casts. Okay, not the same process. The process on Mars, I think. Here's Gale Crater. Curiosity rover finds ancient oasis on Mars. Now, this is what Gale Crater would have looked like as it was drying up. Very similar to this. We have the sort of large rocks and stuff, and smaller rocks, and a salty, brackish lake. Now, that's on Earth, obviously. It's in South America. I think it's somewhere in Chile or somewhere like that. Anyway, what I'm saying is that as Gale Crater dried out, like this, it would have become very caustic or very alkaline, and possibly quite poisonous, and maybe only one or two species could have lived on it or in it. And other animals would have come up to drink from it and may have been poisoned, especially as the lake became very low. The density of the minerals in the lake would have become highly toxic to many creatures, and they would have died, and then perhaps this may have just fallen in the mud and just basically got preserved. Also, bear in mind, at night time Mars gets extremely cold. Mars gets extremely cold. It goes, even in the summer, it goes down to about -80. In the winter, over -200 or 180 or something like that. So it gets very, very cold. So if you were an animal that was ill or didn't get somewhere warm on the ground or something at night, then you would basically freeze to death anyway. So the conditions are pretty harsh. So if there's anything wrong with you, if you get injured or you're not very well, or you get poisoned by some strange salty water, then you would just freeze to death, and then you would desiccate and dry out, and the minerals may form around you from the soil and from the sediments in the bottom of the lake. So that's about it. I've got loads of articles here. I'm going to link to all these. We've got Pompeii animals here. You can just look that up if you know how to spell Pompeii. It's got 2 I's on the end. It's funny spelling. But look those up. I'm not going to put that link in because it's so long, it won't fit on the thing. We've got archaeology page here with the Pompeii specimens, I should say. I suppose they are specimens. A lot of them have bones and skulls inside them. So they're not just hollow casts. They're actual people inside these casts. Okay. Roaring Earth, that's the article to read. It goes into great detail here, and it shows a video about this, which I'm not going to show you now, about these creatures and about the amazing deadly lake, which gets extremely hot in Tanzania in Africa. which is Lake Natron. So you can just Google Lake Natron if you want. It's that easy. Natron, I think it's spelled. We've got this is just animals turned to stone. That's just a Google search. Anyone can do that, and these will come up. Press images. We've got Gale Crater here. Oasis. I'll put a link to this here. I've done many videos on Gale Crater. In fact, hundreds and hundreds. And I've been saying since 2012 that this was an oasis. And only recently have NASA come out and said this. So it seems that I'm ahead of them by about 5 or 6 years for some reason. Now, is that because they're complacent, or are they just being deliberately vague? Are they being strategically vague? Yes, they are. The problem is, if NASA were to admit that there are petrified animals and remains all over the Gale Crater, as well as buildings and things like guns and other objects lying around, if they were to admit that, then we wouldn't be allowed to colonize Mars, because there was a treaty that we signed back in, I think, 1967, the space treaty that says we are not allowed to weaponize space, but also we're not allowed to contaminate planets with ourselves and our viruses and that kind of thing. So if we just went there and there was already evidence of a civilization, then we'd be breaking the space treaty. So they're not going to break the law. Hence, they will not tell us these things are there, because they want to colonize Mars. They want to send people to Mars, and they will be going there within a matter of 5 or 10, 15 years. We don't know exactly. Elon Musk wants to go there as well. But of course, he wants to do a lot of things, including nuking Mars. So I wouldn't trust that guy. But basically, that's it. Let me just show you a close-up again very quickly. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Look at the details, okay? It's all very well saying these things are on Devon Island, but it's not Devon Island. Gale Crater, I think, is bigger than the Devon Island. I think it's massive. It's 93 kilometres across Gale Crater, and I don't think Devon Island's that big. So it's not Devon Island. So basically, look at the close detail. Get in close and have a look. All you got to do is zoom in, look at the teeth, look at the eye, look at the head, look at the possible ear up here, look at that arm, look at the hair. You got hair, preserved hair. Really fine detail here. Okay, but what really clinched it for me was the snout and the eye detail here. Now, unfortunately, this eye is kind of damaged. This one's in pretty good shape here. It comes around like that, and you've got this sort of brow ridge coming around like that. The cheekbone coming out there, and you've got the bottom jaw, and that kind of comes up like that. Now, if that's not an animal with a nose and teeth, what the bloody hell is it? Right? Oh, is it just carved by nature? Was it? Since when does nature carve teeth and eyes and arms and hair? It just doesn't. And anyone who says it does is a complete, utter swonk and is trying to mislead me or you, okay? So don't believe these people. I've been showing these things for 7 years now on this channel, and I've been, in fact, a lot longer than that if you go back to my original website, over 10 years, okay? Probably about 12 or 13 years now. So, ArtAlienTV or ArtAlien.space website goes back a long, long way. And I've been showing preserved animals and things on Mars for many, many years. So it's about time people kind of got up to speed with this and stopped listening to these idiots who say this is Devon Island or that this is all pareidolia. The pareidolia police, as I call them. Look at the teeth. Look at the detail. That's not a rock. Anyone who says that's carved by wind and natural wind erosion is an absolute twonk. Look at the hair. Look at it. You've got fine detail here. Unfortunately, the leg, the foot's kind of down here somewhere, but some of this stuff may be bone down here we're looking at. Now, of course, there's obviously details in here that are a bit obscured by the fact that it's very similar in colour to the rock deposits around it. And you've got this, the back coming down here like that. And the leg there, like that. What this thing is here, I'm not sure. That may just be a rock, or maybe another part of it. I don't know. It could even be part of this arm, perhaps. I don't know. But there we are. There's the detail. When you get in close, you can really see that this is some kind of bear-type creature. I'm not saying it is a bear, but it's that kind of thing. It's shaped like one. It's a bit odd. It's very round. But there we are. There are other examples of bear skulls and things like that. In fact, I'll find some of the other examples of bear-like creatures and stuff, and put them in at the end of this video for you to have a look at as well, so you can compare them, okay, back to back. So I'll do that. I've got hundreds of animals that I found, but this is probably one of the best ones, not only because it's very clear, but because it's largely intact. Absolutely astonishing. And I found this last night, and I was lost for words, absolutely lost for words. It blew me away, absolutely blew me away. And I'm still struggling a bit now looking at it. Absolutely incredible. And this goes to prove my theory was probably right all the way along. And I've been saying for many years that animals were just getting petrified, frozen and petrified. And the minerals in the ground and in the sedimentary layers would preserve them for perhaps 1 million years or 50,000 years or something, you know? Why not? Of course, some of them, I mean, I would say this one's quite a little bit more recent than that, because some of the other ones I found are very, very eroded, because the wind would eventually erode this away, and this would end up looking nothing like an animal. It would look like a rock. You'd end up with these striations coming across here, or angled like that, and this would all get eroded away, and it would end up just looking like an eroded rock, okay? The wind erosion would eventually wear it down. So there are many examples of things that look like wind eroded, petrified animals, but some of them are so badly eroded you can't really say one way or the other. And that may be the case with some of the other things we've got here in the area, like that thing I showed you before, that other thing over here. This may be another animal, but much, much older. And all that's left of it really is a part of the head or skull, and the neck coming around here, and the body was probably up here. But this is probably all wind eroded away. And you also have to bear in mind that some of these animals may have been eaten, or partially eaten as well. So limbs and things like that may be missing. There's something, what's that? Is that a skull or a head? Interesting, not really sure. Could be. Plenty of them in the area. The problem is you have lots and lots of different factors to consider here. Some of these things may be millions of years old, like this thing here, whereas the bear thing over here may only be thousands of years old. Okay? So there may be a huge difference in age of some of these things, even though they're all in the same area. The water levels may have gone up and down in Gale Crater over thousands of years. It could have gone back up again and then gone back down. So we really don't know the exact history of Gale Crater. And when you look at the number of things that I've found and other people have found, there's obviously a very complex history going on here. Not only did you have animals coming here to drink as it dried up, but there was a civilization up on Mount Sharp. There are buildings up here, and a lot of these mounds are burial mounds. So there was a civilization here as well. So how that all interacted is very complex. We don't really know that timeline in any great detail, but I'm trying to piece it together. I'm gradually getting there. The more of these things we find, the more of them we compare, the easier it will become for us to work out a pretty accurate timeline of these events and these civilizations and these creatures in Gale Crater and on Mars. Okay, thank you for watching. Links will be below as usual. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. This was a long one, but there's a lot to explain here, and this is a complex process of mineralization caused by various things like salt and sulfur and other minerals. And I really do think that Gale Crater could have been very much like this lake in Africa that I showed you earlier. And it could have been very similar. It may not be exactly the same, there may not be exactly the same mixture of minerals, but the process, I would imagine, would be very similar indeed. And it could have happened in a matter of days. If you fell into a lake like this, you could become mineralized and then obviously perfectly preserved within weeks or even months, and quite heavily encrusted in minerals within less than a year or something. it could happen very, very quickly. This could explain the level of preservation we're seeing on Mars. Also counter into that the lack of oxygen and moisture in the air, and you have perfect conditions for preserving not only animals and creatures but people. Okay, thanks for watching, see you soon.